The long, dark tunnel he felt himself sliding through for an eternity suddenly ended. A bright, piercing light flared ahead, forcing him to squeeze his eyes shut. A chaotic din rang in his ears, then a powerful hum rolled over him. A booming voice thundered directly into his consciousness. "Start life with a clean slate, but waste no time." A powerful jolt. He felt as though he was shoved back into his body. The place where he had been for an unknown length of time felt strangely familiar. Returning to his former senses was difficult. He struggled to open his eyes, but his eyelids felt impossibly heavy. Gradually, through the noise, his hearing began to pick out individual sounds. Among them was a voice. A woman's voice, heartbreakingly familiar, beloved. It was Eleanor, his wife. More than anything, he yearned to see her, to hold her, to shout, "I'm back! I'm alive! I'm here!" With great effort, he managed to partially open his eyes. He saw that the room was empty. Medical equipment was piled around the bed, wires and tubes extending from it to his body. The door to the corridor was slightly ajar. His wife's voice was coming from there. She was speaking softly, but the words were surprisingly clear. Eleanor was apparently standing quite close. "So, when can I transfer the property into my name?" David heard, freezing in disbelief. What was she talking about? Who was she talking to? "He's not going to make it, you understand." Eleanor's voice turned cold, devoid of any hint of grief. This struck him to the core. The hum rang in his head again. Well, if not by inheritance, there may be some other way, but quickly, the woman continued, and it slowly, painfully dawned on David. She was talking about him, about his death, and most likely she planned to take everything he had worked for. A thick knot of horror and revulsion rose in his throat. He tried to swallow, but his mouth was dry. He longed for a sip of water, but he couldn't lift his hand, nor could he call for help. "And when are you coming to see me?" Eleanor asked, a smile in her voice. "I miss you, I'm waiting. Finally, I won't have to fear his return anymore." That sentence was the final straw. David made a firm decision. He wouldn't show that he was awake. Not yet. Steps sounded in the corridor. Eleanor's voice stopped them. "Doctor, tell me," she asked with a faint tear in her voice, "how much longer will he have to suffer?" "Believe in the best," replied a woman who sounded young. There was unconcealed reproach in her tone. "And please don't stand here. You will be informed of any changes. Just, please call me right away," Eleanor requested, and the familiar clicking of heels could be heard, receding down the hallway. The woman entered the room. Her face, a moment ago twisted by fake grief, now showed impatience. She leaned towards the machine next to the bed and began pressing some buttons. "Ready to bury him alive," she muttered through gritted teeth. "He'll just up and survive, in spite of everything." David made a desperate attempt to say something, but his tongue was glued to the roof of his mouth. Instead of words, only a strange, hoarse sound came out. He opened his eyes again slightly. Eleanor turned sharply. A smile blossomed on her face, but it wasn't a smile of joy, but of malicious pleasure. "Just as I suspected," she said softly, as if to herself, and left the room. She soon returned with 2 doctors. They examined the man for a long time, took blood, connected additional equipment, and whispered animatedly about something. Then they all left. Only a young nurse remained. She brought a wet cotton swab to David's lips. He parted his lips slightly and began sucking on it greedily, trying to squeeze out a drop of moisture. "You can't drink yet, unfortunately," the girl said softly. "So only like this. Please bear with it a little longer. You're doing so well." "Doctor! Urgent!" David managed to force out with immense, painful effort. Each word was a struggle. The girl, frightened, ran out and instantly returned with the doctor, the same young woman whose voice he had heard earlier. "Wife! Don't! Tell!" Again each word was difficult. "She mustn't know. Please, I'll pay. I beg you." The doctor, Emily, leaned over him. Understanding and compassion were in her eyes. "All right," she replied with unexpected readiness. "We won't. Don't worry, it's better for you to rest and not talk for now. We understand. Emily and the nurse left. David heard Emily quietly say to an orderly, I wouldn't even let wives like that near the hospital entrance. All she dreams of is being a widow. Just wants to grab at everything for herself as quickly as possible. How can people like that even exist? I'd pray for him to survive for days, and she... Her voice faded away. After a while, the nurse set up an IV and explained that he would be fed, intravenously for now. Eleanor's words hammered annoyingly in his head. How could she? Having an affair behind his back, while he lay between life and death. He lived for their family, did everything for their well-being, never restricted Eleanor financially. He let her live as she pleased, and now, when he was in an accident, she wasn't just not upset, she was happy. She rushed to divide his property. The thought was repulsive. He wanted to howl like a wolf, to get up right now, find her, and tell her how deeply mistaken she was, that he would survive against all odds, and now she wouldn't get a single cent from him in the divorce. A few days passed. David felt significantly better. Dr. Emily came in. She worked every other day and would sit by him for a long time, talking quietly. How are you doing? She asked with a gentle smile. Thanks. To your prayers, David replied. Emily looked flustered and lowered her eyes. Well, that's great, she said. Listen, I can't hide the fact that you've regained consciousness from your wife for long. You'll be moved to a regular room tomorrow, and then... I understand, David interrupted. Well, I'll have to face her, though I'm not ready for a scene yet. When I opened my eyes, I heard... David trailed off. The constricting knot returned to his throat. I know, Emily said softly. I heard it too. I don't understand how someone can treat a loved one like that. Neither do I. David's voice was stronger now, but there was steel in it. However, it doesn't matter anymore. I'll file for divorce as soon as I'm back on my feet. The hospital didn't call Eleanor. She was impatient to hear that it was over, that she was finally a widow. She came back again. She walked quickly towards the intensive care unit. I need to know how David Logan is doing, she said, trying to feign suffering. How much longer will he have to suffer? An elderly nurse began looking through the logbook. Let's see, Logan, she murmured. Oh, he's not here anymore. As of today. Eleanor barely suppressed a triumphant gasp. Suppressing a smile and faking grief, she turned sharply and hurried towards the exit. He's not in our unit as of today, the nurse added, but Eleanor was already out of earshot. David stood by the window in the first-floor lobby, watching his wife. She was walking along the path to the car, smiling widely and talking on the phone. Everything inside him boiled with rage. Deciding that the time had come to look her in the eye, he hurried to his new attending physician. I need to go home, he declared. The doctor frowned. Are you serious? You were moved from intensive care this morning, and you're planning to run off somewhere? You see, this matter can't wait. David's voice was firm. I won't stay here until I deal with it. I promise to return as soon as I sort things out. Just tell me where to sign. I'm leaving anyway. I'll sneak out if you don't let me. After signing the necessary papers, David called a taxi. He drove following Eleanor's car. Entering the house, he froze. In the living room, walking around in just his underwear, was an unfamiliar man. We'll get rid of this fireplace and put a cool sound system in its place, he was saying enthusiastically. Am I interrupting? David's voice was cold and sharp. He walked into the living room. Eleanor instantly turned pale. She looked at him as if she had seen a ghost. That was probably exactly what went through her mind. Dave, how? How is this possible? Shut up, he ground out, using her old nickname, which now sounded like an insult. You have 5 minutes to grab your stuff and leave, because my security will be here soon, and they'll throw you out if you don't hurry. Dave! But I thought that you were gone. I didn't know how to cope with my grief. Eleanor wailed, starting to cry theatrically. She didn't want to lose the money. Grief? David sneered. You coped quickly. Killed me for money and immediately found a replacement? He gestured towards the lover. Get out, Eleanor, and if you dare try to claim anything after the divorce, you'll end up owing me. Suddenly, Emily's words flashed in his mind. I'd pray for him to survive for days, and she... David felt a deep gratitude towards her. Not every doctor believes in their patient and fights for them like that. If it hadn't been for her, perhaps Eleanor might even have paid someone to help him stop suffering faster. The thought was sickening. It was with this woman, Eleanor, that David had once wanted to spend the rest of his days and dreamed of having children. Eleanor showered curses upon him as the security escorted her and her lover out the gate, but her words no longer affected David. The love had evaporated like smoke. All it took was learning what a lying, vile creature the woman he loved truly was. David called in specialists who changed all the locks in the house in a couple of hours. He asked the security guards to look after the house while he finished his recovery. Returning to the hospital as he had promised, he tried not to dwell on how a single accident had completely turned his life upside down. In the couple of weeks it took David to recover fully, Emily visited him several times, checking on his health. They just chatted about everything and nothing, and it surprisingly helped to clear his heavy thoughts. After being discharged, David began the divorce proceedings. As he expected, Eleanor started demanding her share of the property. But this property acquired in marriage also included a large loan David had taken out for business development. The joint loan, as his ex-wife called it, would also have to be divided. Hearing about the amount of the debt, Eleanor turned paler than before and immediately agreed to sign a document waiving her share of the property. After the divorce was finalised, she cursed David and said things no normal person would ever say. But the man paid no attention to her. In an instant, this woman had become absolutely nothing to him. After some time, David realised he missed Emily and wanted to see her. He hadn't even properly thanked her for literally pulling him back from the brink. Buying a large bouquet, he headed to the hospital, calculating that she should be on shift. However, the nurse informed him that Dr. Emily Carter was currently in a very complicated surgery. David sat down in the corridor, deciding to wait. After a couple of hours, an exhausted Emily emerged from the operating room, tears in her eyes. Seeing David, she smiled in surprise and sat down beside him. "What happened?" David asked anxiously. "Difficult case," she exhaled. "The patient—" No, we saved them, Emily repeated with relief. That made her feel so light inside. "And this is for me?" she asked, looking at the flowers. "Oh, I'm sorry." David handed her the bouquet and smiled sheepishly. "I seem to have lost my skills for talking to women. I wanted to invite you out. But if you say no, I won't be offended." "I'll say yes," Emily replied. "My shift ends in half an hour. A walk would be the best rehabilitation after such surgery. And for you, she smiled. It's good to spend more time in the fresh air."